Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the first ever Cresco podcast. I'm actually joined today with colleague Peter Kollias.
Good morning.
Good
Dimitri.
morning. We've now revealed that we're recording on a morning.
We're recording in the morning. And I think the idea we here was, well, I know the idea here was is that you and I enjoy coffee. In fact, as you know, Cresco Wealth Management has its own coffee, the Cresco Happy Blend. And every morning we sit down and we have a coffee. And whether we're sitting, you and I, or we're sitting with friends or family or other colleagues or clients for that matter, there's always a conversation that happens over coffee. So we thought, let's get together, let's have a coffee, and let's talk a little bit about what impacts people when it comes to the wealth management world.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can't stress enough that this is really the essence of what it was. It's that morning coffee talk that we have, whether it's about the business, whether it's about what we're seeing in the news, in the media, mostly as it pertains to wealth management and finance. But we just wanted to bring it to the table and do it in the style of that coffee talk. So not getting too much into the details. We can always have those conversations, but really just letting people know where our heads are at and what we're talking about, what we're seeing. And to start it off today, just because of timely and where we are, call it in the calendar, there's this perception of that TFSA RRSP season, as we call it. I don't know if I necessarily believe in that there needs to be a season for this and that you can only do stuff. But why don't we maybe spend the first time, really talking about that, but also incorporating the thing you wanted to do was, man, if I only knew now what I knew then. I can't believe we're now giving the dad speeches, right?
That's,
this is incredible.
That's right. As some of you may know, I've got an 8-year-old boy and an 11-year-old girl, and I think to myself, if I knew what I knew now 20, 30 years ago, what kind of impact could that happen? And it ties into this conversation of the TFSA and RSP. And I know you call it the season. And when I first started in the industry about 23, 24 years ago, there was that season where it was extremely busy. It's now been more streamlined, but it ties in nicely because the one thing that comes to mind, if I had realized the power of time and the value of time, and what I mean by that, there's no better resource than time. Our time is running out as we get older, but our kids have all this runway. And, the greatest thing they can take and glean from that is effectively what Albert Einstein called the eighth wonder of the world, which is compound interest. The more time you have to compound your interest and start saving, the better it is, right? And so
totally, Pete. And it's interesting too because we'll run detailed financial plans, or we're looking at very particular scenarios. And sometimes I think the advice is you backtrack a bit and say, okay, well, first you have to get a couple things in order. Save money, make money, save money, and let it compound. And then don't overthink those first two steps. Let it be organic. And then from there, we can start devising some detailed strategies as it pertains to an individual. But I find maybe it's just us, again, dad speech getting older, where the landscape of the world, maybe the perception of time is shortened. And people think you got to do things now. You have to do it in a certain way. It's crazy. It's crazy.
No, I absolutely agree, as you mentioned there, and I think people just heard me taking a sip of the coffee. So we are having our coffee.
We are, yeah. This is legitimate, everyone.
We're actually having our coffee in the morning here. But you're right. Don't overthink the plan, right? When you first start off, the first thing to do is just pay yourself first. Think about it, pay yourself first and get started. So now the question is, well, where do you pay yourself first, right? We're living in a world where we want simplicity, but yet we've got all this complexity. Right.
Yes, exactly.
So do we save in the TFSA? Do I save in the RSP? If I have a corporation, if I'm self-employed, do I save within my corporation? What about RRSPs? What about non-registered accounts? How do I integrate life insurance into this as a way of wealth management? So you've got all these complexities, and what we want to do today is really just simplify and say, okay, let's go back and let's say it is the season. Let's talk about the TFSA season. And let's talk a little bit about TFSA accounts and using that as an opportunity to start saving now, pay yourself first, and start saving for the long term.
That's great, because what I will say, one of the things that I feel that I encounter is, call it past lack of knowledge that was given. We've said it long before, and we'll say long after, that our industry does a poor job of education. We just work on assumption. And I found it, if you talk to certain certain generational, certain people in certain generations, millennials, baby boomers, this wasn't explained properly, that they have different properties, different vehicles, different things that they're doing. And a lot of times, even tax-free savings account, for example, will people say, well, I can invest in that? I thought it was just a savings account that was tax-free. Or why am I getting taxed on an RRSP? Why am I giving the government money for pulling my government out? And it's just, there's not a lot of talking that went through. So let's start with the TFSA, as you say, and really just the properties there within and what it means.
Let's do that. So the tax-free savings account, the name says it all. It's a tax-free savings account. And what the government has done is they want to help encourage Canadians save for their future. And there's many vehicles that they can use. One is the TFSA and the other is the RRSP. And we'll talk about the RRSP next time. But let's just jump into the tax-free savings account. So the tax-free savings account allows you, when you turn 18 years old, to start saving $6,500 a year. That started as of this year. Before it was $6,000, and at one time it was actually $10,000. So every year from this point forward, once you turn 18 years old, you can put $6,500 into that account. Now, what's the benefit to that? The key thing with putting your money into the tax-free savings account is any money that you put in there grows tax-free. Any earnings from income grows tax-free. Any dividends you receive grows tax-free. And we come back to the compounding effect, right? And so you've got even more power with that compounding effect, because the biggest grind on your wealth, Dimitri, is taxes.
Taxes, yeah.
Right? Taxes. Depending on what marginal tax rate you're in, they're going to go ahead and take that piece from you. So let's say you're in Alberta and you're in the highest marginal tax rate and you've got $6,500 and you earn $1,000 off that $6,500. Well, 47%, $470 is going to go to the government. So imagine if you can keep that in an account that continues to compound and grow for you instead of paying taxes. And so that's one of the major benefits of using the tax-free savings account.
Yeah, absolutely. And the idea here is because you've already been taxed on that money, they're not taxing on the principal or the growth. And, talk about that. So when someone turns 18 years old, they are allotted that yearly space that the government gives. So this year, as we say, it's $6,500. It's been for the last few years, $6,000. Originally, when it did start, it was if you were 18 in the year of 2009, you also got to accrue that money. And so there's a different nature in the properties of what is the contribution space. We've grown accustomed to, okay, we have this RRSP space and this carry forward room. Do we have the same thing within the TFSA as well? And the answer is yes, but there are a few differences. So for example, you constantly have that carry forward room. You are able to withdraw it and replenish that space after a year, for example, whereas a little bit different in some of the other registered accounts.
And that's right. So the program started in 2009. So here we are in 2023. So if you had made contributions from the onset from 2009 to 2023, that's a total of 88,000 contribution room that you need to take advantage of. Now, if you say for whatever reason you needed to, and the way we consider the tax-free savings account is not a savings account where you pull money ad hoc and regularly. It's something you want there to pertain to your plan and to your goals. And so if we say it's going to be longer term for retirement or otherwise, if you ever needed to take money out of the tax-free savings account, you can say withdraw that full $88,000 in 2023, and you can replace that money, no questions asked, the following year in 2024. Even better yet, Dimitri, is when you pull that money out, are you taxed on it? Zero tax.
Zero.
And so that's why we love the tax-free savings account. It provides the flexibility, it provides the compound interest, it provides a great vehicle for you to save for long-term or even short-term goals, depending on what your plan is.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a great question that I get, and I'll pick your brain apart on this one. And we get it all the time. People will say, well, what do I do first? Should I be focusing on the TFSA? Should I be doing the RRSP? Do I do a little bit of both? What is the game plan here?
That's a great question, and it really comes to your personal situation and where you're at. Yeah. One will relate to your levels of income. And we'll talk about this next time when it comes to the RRSP and the deduction limit and what you can put forward. The reality is both. If you've got the ability to maximize both 18% to the RSP and 6,500 to the TFSA, absolutely. Those are your vehicles that you want to go at. And so that is more of a personal question where we want to come in, take a look at your financial plan, take a look at your whole wealth program, and again, see what your goals are. What are you trying to achieve, and then which account do we want to take advantage of for you?
Yeah, and you hit it, and I agree, because I would caution anyone that ever gets advice without someone really looking into what's happening, and if they get advice and say, well, this is what you need to do. We're really good about that in society. You go out and everyone's got their opinion. They don't ask any detailed questions, but they say, well, you should be doing it to this account, or you should be doing this, or, I'm doing this over here. You should be. No, stop. Put the brakes on. Let's take a look at everything first. Let's see what we're doing with, because there is an efficient way of doing things, whether it be on a yearly basis or multi-year basis, for that fact, or how old are we? There's way too many factors going in. No, Pete, thanks for your time. On this one here, again, we're just here to provide, kind of pick our brain apart. We don't want to give you a 20, 30, 40-minute podcast. We could.
we could probably do 4 hours.
Yeah, if you ask anyone at work, that's actually what we do, just no microphones. No, but we're gonna do the first part of the series, as we said, just really highlighting a lot of the different accounts, and in between then really just quick hits in regards to what's happening situationally. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for listening. Again, this is the Cresco podcast. You can hear it on Podbean. You can go to CrescoWealthManagement.com and we'll have the link available to you. And if you are subscribed to our newsletter already on our quarterly, we will have the link for this as well. We're not doing video yet. We're not there yet. One step at a time. We just got this figured out.
We just got the microphone figured out. Absolutely. So once again, Cresco Wealth Management, Dimitri and myself, Peter, always a pleasure, and very grateful that you've taken some time to listen to us.